Welcome, everybody. Look what I've got today. My microphone. Woo! I'm John Rosas in Washington, D.C., talking about Ukraine. Let me start up TikTok. Oops, that's not what I wanted. What am I doing here? TikTok, what am I doing? Hold on. There we go. That's what I'm trying to do. I was trying to go live, which I did not really want to go live. Actually, I'm going to clean my thing. All right. Go live, be free. Anyway, hello, everybody. If you could introduce yourselves, say where you're from, and I'm going to have the TikTokers do the same thing as soon as they start coming on. There you go. Hello, TikTokers. There we go. Mirroring is on. It's funny. I don't like myself mirrored. That is funny. It's weird. I think I look more like my grandma when I'm mirrored on the iPad. It's like, ooh, it's weird enough when you start looking like your dad in pictures, but when you like see your grandma, it's a little weird. Hey, everybody. Ooh, man. As always, I'm going to adjust my temperature here. But how's everybody doing? It's Saturday here in America. Let me adjust my air as always. What am I doing? Anyway, yeah, so the way we do this, as always, we wait a couple minutes for folks to filter in because it takes a few minutes on the various platforms. I've got TikTok over there on my iPad. I've got Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and maybe somebody else. So it takes a few minutes for people to come in. Hello, Lithuania. I'm talking about you guys today and the Russians threatening you. They're so pathetic. Sound? Is my sound not working here? Oh, hang on. Did I not pick the video was coming through my computer. Aha. There you go. I didn't realize it was coming through my computer. Yep. No, exactly, Bookworm. At this point, I'll talk about it. I've got it sort of added here. Oh, hey, Ryan. Yeah. Well, the weekends I try to do earlier so that the Europeans at least have a chance. Because I'm surprised how many Europeans come, considering when we do it at 6 o'clock at night, it's getting awfully late for you guys. Thank you, Zips. I appreciate it. So we're going to wait a couple minutes, guys, maybe 2 more minutes, just to give folks a chance to arrive, but it's getting there now, which is good. But, and I have my cappuccino. I started a minute or 2 late because I was making my second cup of coffee of the day. Nummy, nummy, nummy. Oh, thank you, Just Me. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's sweet of you to say. Sligo, Ireland. Sligo. That's an interesting name. Sligo, Ireland. Sasha is doing fabulously, which is really good news. Hello, mighty Twitchers. Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. No, that's the thing. I know. I'm surprised, Ryan, how many people actually make it from Europe during the week. But 6 p.m. is the earliest we can really do because I'm on the East Coast. That means it's 3 p.m. in California, which people are still working. So, even 6 p.m. is a compromise to try to make it a little better for you guys. Pronounced Sligo? That sounds a little better than Sligo. Sligo sounds like Slytherin or something. Sligo. Okay, Sligo sounds a little better. Sligo. Of course, also saying it with like a wonderful Irish accent probably helps. Oh, hang on. Okay. I just turned the mic a little louder. How is that now? Let me know. I'm going to start in a second, but let me know on, it's set up now. Let me know on YouTube, etc., if my mic is loud enough now. Let me know. And then I'm live on TikTok already. All right. All right, guys. Well, let me start to do the introduction. And as I said, let me know if the mic is still being quiet for you folks, but I turned up the volume a little bit. I do not. That is definitely not me if it's Simple Guy. The only backup account I have on TikTok is Erevosis Backup. And you'll know because I even put the video of me in there and I mention the name, and I even have a picture of the name of the backup account so that people know it's my real account. All right, guys, let me start here. So I'm John Arvosis. I'm in Washington, D.C. I've been doing these daily updates on what's going on in Ukraine, trying to synthesize the news for you guys and explain it in a way that makes sense. And also saving you time because it's about a 20-minute news summary that I start with. Thank you, Seven. And then after the news summary, we go to questions and answers, and you guys can pose whatever questions you want. Typically, we talk about Ukraine. I will sometimes mention a topic or two. Thank you, Smiling. If there's a big topic, for example, the Japanese assassination we got into earlier this week. So if there's big news happening elsewhere, we'll talk about it, but we're still sticking to Ukraine because it matters. So let me dive right in. Once I finish the news, we will do Q&A for TikTok. Thank you for the fireworks, Mins and Mike. On TikTok, because TikTok removed the Q&A button from the lives, which is really annoying. You need to go to my profile. I will show you. I will go there myself. If you look at my profile on TikTok, the profile is simply that part above the videos. So the videos and then me. You will see in the middle of that, I'm getting really close. See where it says Q&A in red? That's how you submit a question. So submit your questions there on TikTok and on YouTube, etc. You can use the comment button at the bottom, of course. And otherwise on YouTube, you can also buy Super Chat questions, which are a nice way to support my work because I am still doing this full time. And I promise in return that I will get to your Super Chat question above and beyond every other question. So I will always answer the Super Chat questions. I can't promise on all the other questions, and I'll get to them next as well. So thank you for that. Okay, guys, let me dive right in. Oh, and then finally, I'm sorry, the last couple things. When you guys do the GIFs on TikTok, which are the fun hats and all that stuff, I will always try to make a mention if I see them. So thank you for that. And we can dive right in. So very interesting. I've got a good amount of news today. I'm a little surprised because I was a little worried. From last night, we did last night's show at 6 o'clock Eastern. So I'm adjusting my temperature here because I'm cold again. But I was a little worried about not having enough news, but there's actually a pretty decent amount of news here. So overnight, the Ukrainians hit 3 more ammunition depots, which are basically big places where they store ammunition for the war, in Donetsk, Luhansk, and Kherson. Luhansk is the province all the way to the east. That's the province that the Russians now control pretty much 100%, okay? Donetsk is this province here right next to it. That's the one that they control maybe 50, 60%, and they're trying to control 100%. And Kherson is a town and province all the way over here. It's the first big city that the Russians took over and occupied, and it's right here. So overnight, the Ukrainians hit all 3 areas. They destroyed ammunition depots in those 3 areas. Now, ID, thank you for the fireworks. What I think is really interesting about that is not only that they're, yeah, I know I'm burping a little here from my coffee. Not only that that the Ukrainians have been able to hit more and more ammunition depots. They're hitting more and more. Like I said, last night was 3, but they even did it in 3 different regions. So it's not like, they had one gun and hit here and hit here and hit here. They're really doing a good job here. I mean, this is really impressive that they're pulling this off. And it's it comes to a larger story, and I'm going to tell you in a second what the sort of the blowback in Russia is because they're pissed about this. They're pissed about this. Okay, hold on. I've got to go to Facebook and destroy somebody. One moment. But the Russian trolls don't even try to be. Putin is great. Putin is great. Okay, Putin is great. One moment, guys. I'm going to Facebook, so I've got to destroy someone. This is live. Oh, hang on. Where is this crazy person? Oh, they're in the other Facebook. Interesting. Hold on. All right, guys. It takes me a second to do this. Let's see if they're here. I must find Moose and Squirrel. Or what Russia is losing. Losing, I tell you. Losing. Oh, there he is. Losing. Oh, Abu. You've got such a hot photo for a fake Russian troll. So sad. block Abu, bye-bye Abu. Okay, Abu was being a jerk. Abu just left the building. All righty. Okay, Abu's gone. I'm back. So what I was talking about was they've done a really good job, the Ukrainians, at hitting these ammunition depots in the last week especially, and they're hitting multiples a night. The Russians themselves are starting to freak out back home, and I'm going to read you that in a second. Noah Smith had summarized this really well. He's a writer. He's just a writer, but he weighs in a lot on the military stuff, and it's very interesting. He does a good job on it, but listen to this. He said, the basic story of the Ukraine war over the last month is that Russia retreated to places where it could supply its artillery by railroad instead of truck. So Russia basically focused on, I know my mock Russian accent is not very good. Russia has been focusing on putting its artillery, its bullets, so to speak, in areas near the railroad instead of areas they could move around by truck. And that gave Ukraine the HIMARS, which are the missile trucks, the medium-range missiles we gave them, and the Brits gave them, and the Germans may have done something here too, that could reach the Russia's rail supply depots. Long story short, I'd actually mentioned this the other day. The Russians keep putting all their equipment by the railroads, and the railroads are in reach of the Ukrainians with the longer guns, so they keep blowing up all the ammunition. The Russian military bloggers are livid about this, and this gives you a sense. I'm going to read you a longer quote from one of them. I'd mentioned these guys to you guys before. Basically, thank you, Dora, for that. Basically, they're Russian private citizens, okay? And many of them are former military, if not all of them. So they know military stuff. And they've been, blogging, so to speak, but they're doing it on Telegram, among other places. Some of them are using LiveStack or whatever it's called, a couple different places to blog. And by blogging, I simply mean they write stories. They write their own stories about what's going on, their opinion, a couple paragraphs, whatever. Well, a number of these guys have a large following, like several 100,000, if not a couple million followers following them. And I don't need the puff right now, actually good. A couple million followers, and they have been highly critical of the war. And it's a little weird because in Russia, you don't get away with being highly critical of the war. But that's what these guys are doing. And they're not just critical, they're critical. They believe in the war. They're actually far right. They're far right nationalists who think this was a great idea. Russia went in, but they're not happy about how it's going. And they blame the military leaders and they blame the civilian leaders, which means Vladimir Putin. And again, so far they're getting away with doing it publicly, which is crazy. So let me read this to you. Hold on. This was the one guy that, I'll go to my favorites. That's so I can find this more easily. Here we go. So this guy writes, I forget who he is, but people had been sharing him and saying he's somebody worth listening to, and he's listened to in Russia. So he really pissed about the Ukrainian ammunition attacks last night. So he writes this very long post. Again, this is a Russian here writing, critical of what's going on and basically giving an overview of the war. So he says, June, July, despite the absence of any military secrecy around the supply of modern foreign long-range artillery and MLRS to Ukraine. In other words, despite the fact that the Ukrainians and the Americans and the Europeans have told us exactly what weapons they're shipping to Ukraine, despite the fact, what this guy is saying, I'm paraphrasing, that they told you 6 weeks ago to 2 months ago that they were sending longer range missiles and longer range rocket systems, right? That would be able to go, we knew exactly, 43 miles. So in spite of the fact that you were warned about this, he says, the Russians continue to concentrate artillery ammunition on large, unsuitable for their storage. Mind you, this is translating from Russian here using Google. Unsuitable for their storage, industrial facilities in the zone of confident reach of enemy missiles and artillery. In other words, yet we still keep putting all of our ordnance, our ammunition, within range of the very rockets that we already knew the Ukrainians were getting because the Americans and the Brits told us 2 months ago, right? It's beautiful what this guy's writing. Lose one by one all these warehouses. In other words, he's saying we're losing one by one, just boom, boom, boom. Now, mind you, I think he's also saying one by one, because he's basically saying, we're watching it happen live. One gets blown up, then the next gets blown up, then the next gets blown up. And these, I'm paraphrasing here, but these morons don't move they don't move the ammunition, even though they see, okay, clearly the Ukrainians now have the rockets. Clearly these rockets do go 43 miles. Clearly these rockets are hitting our artillery, our ammunition, but we still don't move the ammunition. Listen to this. As a result, to lose the opportunity to attack normally, at least in the way that they attacked before, this was an important line, to create out of the blue a wild shell hunger in conditions when the enemy had just, so he's saying that there is now a shell hunger among the Russian troops, meaning they don't have enough shells to fire their artillery. That's huge, because artillery is what the Russians rely on, right? Excuse me. It's their number one thing that they use to basically blow all these cities up. And they're starting to not have enough of them, according to this blogger. Let me see. Outcome. Oh, okay, listen to this too. And again, for anybody who's just joining, this is a Russian military blogger. This is a private citizen, probably former military, but who is writing his opinions publicly on social media, has a lot of followers, and somehow he's getting away with doing this without Vladimir Putin killing him. And he, again, somebody who is super pro the war, but thinks the war effort has been a total joke. Listen to this. This guy literally implicitly mentions Putin here. I know that our army is led by a bunch of untrained morons. To put a finer point on it, this is a dictatorship in which this guy is saying this, okay? I know that our army is led by a bunch of untrained morons, stupidly vile, miserable, vindictive, petty, thieving, herdish, gathering in big army mafias, bringing tithe of their income to the very top, just stupid thieves, like the civilian leadership of the country. The difference is small. In other words, he said all of this about the military leadership and says there's a very small difference between them and our civilian leadership. The civilian leadership of the country is Vladimir Putin. And even the morons themselves begin to guess about it, that they are morons. And of course, waiting for the fact that they stole something from themselves, they stole their own future. But you can no longer convince anyone that there's no... Anyway, that's the bottom of it. But I mean, again, you've got to appreciate what Russia is, and to appreciate how Putin kills all of his opponents, to appreciate that these guys are writing, and this guy isn't alone. They're writing this kind of stuff publicly. Anyway, I've even got chills telling you. It's really kind of remarkable. Now, let's see what happens as a result, but it's interesting. The second big story today, and this is very interesting too, is there is possibly an imminent action that is going to be taken place by the Ukrainians going into Kherson and Zaporizhia. Now, I am not sharing military secrets. This is all over the place. Everybody knows, so don't worry about that. It's not like, you know, I've got my own satellite in Ukraine, right? This stuff is all public. But the Kherson, and I was telling you before that these regions, and the Russians, I guess, do this too. These regions seem to have a main town that is also named after the region, or vice versa. So the Kherson Oblast, or the province, is here, and the main town is Kherson. The main town is Kherson, right here, okay? Zaporizhia, here. And I think Zaporizhia goes south a little bit, the region. That one I think so. But the main town of Zaporizhia is here. Now, what is going on is, and Doc, this was not Igor Girkin, Doc, but it was another guy. I can look, actually, because I've got this. I'd have to look a second, and I can tell. You know, let me look. Let me see if by chance I've got the guy's name in here. Otherwise, I can find it. One moment. Oh, yeah. I mean, his name, because he uses LiveJournal, his account is actually Kenig Tiger. K-E-N as in Nancy, I-G, T as in Tom, I-G-E-R, like tiger. So Kenig Tiger.livejournal.com. But I don't think I've got his, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't have his name handy, though. So there appears to be imminent action that's about to take place in those two regions, in Kherson and Zaporizhia. What is going on is, last night, the Ukrainian government Now, there had been some urging before, but last night the Ukrainian government came out and said, if you are in the Kherson Oblast, the Kherson region, which is occupied by the Russians, you need to get out now. That we are going to be doing something, you don't want to be there. Okay? I mean, very, very interesting. It could be a bluff by the Ukrainians, but kind of a nasty bluff. I mean, trying to bluff the Russians, but you're telling your own people, pack up all your bags and leave for a bluff. I don't think so. Let me see here real quick. Oh yeah, here we go. This comes on the heels of the Ukrainians not just blowing up ammunition everywhere, but blowing up a lot of ammunition in the Kherson region itself. This is the same region they're telling everybody to get out because they're about to attack. They also just destroyed 2 Russian command posts in the region as well. So now you've got the ammunition being blown up, so it's harder for the Russian forces to fight back because they may have guns, but they don't have bullets, so to speak, right? For the artillery. Second of all, they're blowing up their command posts, so now it's harder for the Russian soldiers to get orders and for the commanders to sort of coordinate all the soldiers. What's really great about this, and some of the military folks could probably tell you better than I, the Russians are notorious in their military for lower level staff, lower level folks in the military, not having any responsibility and not knowing what to do. We apparently empower people, and military folks can explain more, the non-coms and all this kind of stuff. We empower people much better in the lower rungs of the military to be able to take responsibility, to be able to sort of adapt on their own to what the circumstances. In the Russian, it's the opposite. The lower guy, driving the tank with the gun, whatever it is, he is sitting here and he's going to do what you tell him. He's going to do what you tell him. And if you don't tell him, he's not going to know what to do. So they're taking out the command and they're taking out the weapons, which is amazing, which is absolutely amazing. So anyway, the point there is keep an eye. It looks like there may be a massive attack coming by the Ukrainians in the Kherson region, but also possibly Zaporizhia. Final point to actually point out about this for you guys. Most of the fighting that's going on, the big fighting has been out here. This is Severodonetsk, which is that town that the Russians were fighting over for a month plus, and they finally took it over, right? Good job, mods. See that? Thank you, by the way, on TikTok. Whoever took out the guy that said bull, that would be a good example of he didn't look like he was too much crossing the line, but he's a troll. I could tell that person was a troll, so thank you for that. The main fighting's going on over here. This is where the Russians have been advancing. They're advancing very slowly, but they're advancing. Here is where the Ukrainians have been pushing back for a month plus, and the Ukrainians have been slowly advancing. So while the Russians are slowly doing better here, the Ukrainians are doing better here. So this is why it's especially interesting if they're going to have a big push coming. There was a mysterious train explosion in Russia's Bryansk Oblast near the Ukrainian border. I looked on the map. It's basically up here almost at the beginning of the corner of the N, more or less, is where Bryansk is. And we don't know if the Ukrainians did it. It's very suspicious. It is a transport network used to transport the troops typically. So the fact that a bomb went off there is very interesting. Mariupol also had 2 explosions. Mariupol, right here, you recall that's the town where the Russians basically destroyed the entire city. And we had the Azovstal steel plant, which was the steel plant where the defenders were there for like 2+ months, and 2,000 Ukrainian troops were able to hold off 14,000 Russian troops for over 2 months. I mean, absolutely amazing what they pulled off. Well, the Mariupol had 2 explosions. The explosions occurred on July 9th near the Azovstal steel plant. At least 3 Russians are dead and others are injured. Again, it sure sounds like it could be Ukrainian military, it could be Ukrainian resistance, right? The private citizens that are taking up arms and working with Ukrainian intelligence. The New York Times, this is interesting, actually. I'm going to quote you guys some of this too. The New York Times got into the issue of the operational pause. One sec. and what it meant and kind of how it was going. The operational pause is the issue of the Russians in the last few days. They're not taking a break, but they announced an operational pause. And the media's been trying to explain this because it hasn't been clear. A lot of people thought it meant like literally like a ceasefire or something. It doesn't. The Russians are still fighting, but it means, they're not as aggressive right now. They're fighting smaller skirmishes. They're fighting them in fewer areas. So but they're still bombing the hell out of things because they've got enough artillery shells, at least in some of the regions. They're still using their missiles. So they're continuing to do that, but the actual troops on the ground aren't fighting as much because they're trying to replace them with new troops if they've got them. Okay. Now, this was interesting, the New York Times, because it was talking about basically just how good are these replacements going to be. Okay. Well, exactly. And Dave in Florida is saying, for example, they're probably out of ammunition. So there's things like that, right? And frankly, the troops are just exhausted. I mean, after 5 months of fighting, these guys are absolutely exhausted. They have no morale. They've seen all their friends get killed next to them. They need to be replaced or they need a break is the idea. So listen to this. This is from Britain's defense ministry. Despite President Putin's claim on July 7th, which was 2 days ago, that the Russian military had not even started its efforts in Ukraine, this was Putin's threat where he basically was like, oh, you've seen nothing yet. And we were all like, please, dude, like, come on. Despite his threats that the Russian military has not even started its efforts in Ukraine, many of its reinforcements are ad hoc groupings deploying with obsolete or inappropriate equipment. That was from the British Defense Ministry. The Times goes on to say, one sign the Defense Ministry pointed to was its expectation that fresh Russian troops would be deployed with MTLB armored vehicles. The MTLB, first designed in the 1950s to pull artillery, is not heavily armored and can mount only a machine gun to protect its forces. British ministry says again, Russia has long considered them unsuitable for most frontline infantry transport roles, but they're using the equipment that they have considered unsuitable. This is sort of getting to the desperation aspect. Previous deployments, the ministry said, were transported with the well-armored BMP-2 fighting vehicles, which can also fire anti-tank missiles. So you're talking about a better defended vehicle that the troops would be in that can not just better defended, but it can fire anti-tank missiles rather than something that isn't defended, that if a bomb goes off nearby, you blow up and all you've got is a machine gun, which isn't going to help you against a tank. Then there are reports from Russian channels on the Telegram app. Telegram is a social media app the Russians like to use, Ukrainians too, of a strained effort to round up more troops to fight. Russia has resorted to creating volunteer battalions to deploy to Ukraine, a move that avoids a national draft that Moscow may fear is too politically risky. We also have, I told you guys yesterday, that the Russians are starting to recruit prisoners with military experience. I mean, they're desperate for men. They're desperate for men. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Ukraine is in the process of mining the border with Belarus. Belarus is this blue area up here, okay, is Belarus. Right over here is Russia. This is Belarus. Belarus is the country, well, I shouldn't say the country, but the leader is a dictator, and he's in cahoots with Putin. He's Putin's best friend right now. He's been helping him with the war. Belarus itself has not been lending troops. They have not invaded Ukraine, but they let the Russians at the beginning of the war come through their territory and then come down into Ukraine, and they're letting the Russians bomb Ukraine from their territory, okay? So, or attack Ukraine from their territory. I got to say here real quick. Oh, yeah. So there's been a lot of huffing and puffing by the Belarusians over the last, 2 months, really, or a month especially. And people have been worried about whether, are they going to attack? Does Ukraine have to worry about them? And Ukraine itself does not think the Belarusians are going to attack. They think what's going on is the Belarusians are huffing and puffing. I should say Lukashenko, the dictator, is huffing and puffing because he wants to force the Ukrainians to basically move troops there just in case. But you end up moving 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 troops, whatever it is, to that region just in case, and there are 4,000 troops that aren't fighting the Russians elsewhere. So that, I think, is why they're doing it. Putin basically wanted him to invade, and he said, no way, I don't have the political support. Even though he's a dictator, he doesn't have the political support to invade, but he does have the ability to scare fearmonger, to force the Ukrainians to waste their troops. So the Ukrainians have responded by mining the border, which I know we don't like landmines, but it probably is a really good idea for two reasons. One, obviously, it makes the Belarusians think even more about whether they really want to invade if there's a whole minefield in front of them. That's the first thing. The second thing is there were reports in the last day of additional Russian military equipment moving into Belarus. So the concern is, would the Russians themselves try something from Belarus? Because there still is this concept. The Russians, Putin has talked repeatedly, and the Russians have, that he still wants to take all of Ukraine, right? And there'd been talk about the Russians trying to regroup to actually make another attempt at going at Kyiv, the capital. Kyiv is right here, the Ukrainian capital, right? Mind you, Belarus is literally right here. So Belarus is, oh God, I forget if it's 50 miles, 75 miles. It's not very far from the border, right? From Kyiv. So if the Russians moved a bunch of troops here, they could try to make another attempt at Kyiv. Obviously, some of that's questionable because the Russians are clearly not in good shape right now. The issues we talked about earlier, the morale, the troops are tired. They've seen their friends blow up. They're running out of ammunition in some parts because the Ukrainians are blowing it up, etc. So anyway, I think as much as we don't like landmines, I think it actually is sort of a sensible move for there, because not only is it stopping the Belarusians from coming, if the Russians themselves were planning something sneaky and coming through Belarus, now the Russian troops themselves have to go through a minefield. So Canada, interesting update on Canada. This is actually I've got like a lot of good news today. There's only one or two kind of bad stories, which is sorry. This is I'm doing, was it ASMR or what do you call it? Stirring my cappuccino. Thank you, Rascal. Appreciate that. Canada. So I'd reported yesterday that Reuters was saying that ASMR, that is it. Okay. Reuters was saying that basically Canada caved and was giving the Russian gas company Gazprom this, what was it? A turbine or a cog, some piece of equipment it needed, that the Canadians were, thank you, Dai, that the Canadians were repairing or something. And when the sanctions kicked in, the Canadians could no longer give that repair part back to the Russians because it was covered by the sanctions. Well, the Canadians, who's that? Oh, Annette, thank you, Annette. The Canadians were pressured by the Germans to have the piece returned because the Russians have cut off, last that I saw was at 60% of the gas going to Germany, which is a lot. And actually, it is very dangerous to the German economy, especially in the fall when the winter kicks in, if the Russians cut that kind of energy. So I'm not unsympathetic to the Germans on this one. But the Germans put pressure on the Canadians, and Reuters reported that the Canadians basically caved and were going to give the piece to the Russians. Well, latest news, Canada says the decision on transfer of the turbine to Gazprom has not yet been made. Canada's Minister of Natural Resources, Jonathan Wilkinson, told the Canadian press on July 8th that the decision to transfer the turbine to Germany, necessary for the restoration of the full operation of Russian Nord Stream 1 gas pipeline, is still being discussed with the Ukrainian and German governments, but it is not a simple question. Earlier, Reuters reported that Canada had informed the German government that the turbine will be delivered. So something's going on here. I would say either Reuters got the story wrong, or it looks like the Canadians might be rethinking. It's very interesting. If the Canadians had already made the decision and the Canadians were determined to not change their mind, they wouldn't say, well, no, we're still thinking about it, because that opens you up to more pressure. The Americans can pressure you. The Ukrainians, who knows, but Ukraine's allies can pressure you. If the decision was made, they would have stuck with it, right? So I don't know. Very interesting, but again, great news, because I do feel for the Germans on this, but there's a genocide going on, guys. I mean, it's tough. And in a democratic governments, especially, they're responsible to the people. So anybody elected to office is going to be very worried, just as we are here, about the economy and the impacts that this is having on it. But anyway, one of the negative stories, Russia is making threats against Lithuania. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I realized I had a question or comment here from Doc Remington. Sorry, Doc. I told you already. I did answer you. Yeah, that it wasn't Gherkin, right? And Doc's got another one here. Word around the campfire is that it's not the Germans that are pressuring Canada, but the U.S. Simply to take away further excuses by the Germans. What do you mean? I mean, give me more. You don't have to buy it, but give me more on what you mean by that. The Americans are pressuring Canada to give the part to Russia simply to take away further excuses by the Germans. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Excuses about what? That's my question, I guess. Yeah. I'll wait to see if Doc weighs in with a little bit more. Elise is talking about the current issue, Lithuania. Lithuania announced European Union sanctions will now be enforced on alcohol shipments to Kaliningrad. That's good. I guess my question for you, Elise, is which way that goes. Are you saying now there's an additional product that's being sanctioned? Or are you saying alcohol is the only thing that they're going to enforce it on now? In other words, they've freed up all the other products. Okay, first, Doc is responding. By getting the part, the Germans cannot claim anymore that providing weapons will mean further escalation. I mean, I mean, this reminds me of years ago when I was doing consulting for Planned Parenthood, and there was some issue I wanted them to jump on, and they said, "Oh my God, if we jump on that, Rush Limbaugh will criticize us." Rush Limbaugh was this very right-wing, very loud radio guy, big ally of Trump. And at the time, of course, I told them, and I said, "You don't understand. Rush Limbaugh is going to criticize you anyway. You're Planned Parenthood. It's not like Republicans are going to stop." And in this case, getting rid of this is going to now get rid of the German fear that, oh my God, if Putin gets angry, right? I don't see it. I don't see it making a difference, I guess, is my point. I feel like no matter what, Germany is still going to be Germany. France is going to be France, and they're going to be freaked out about escalation and getting Putin humiliation and all of that with Putin. Maybe. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, I'm sure that's what they said, but pacifying the Germans so they get back in line. I see what you mean, though. It's just one less thing for the Germans to whine about. I can see your point on that. German economy, Felix says the German economy is under heavy pressure and the middle class is dying out fast. Many people can't afford their rent, food, and gas to go to work. Well, and I will say this, Felix, as much as I've been critical of some of what I see from Scholz, the German chancellor, I am sympathetic on the energy front. I mean, it's a big deal telling a country to cut off a significant amount of its energy imports. I mean, that's a huge deal because you're going to have a horrible economic impact on these countries because of that. It's unless they're able to find, something else to replace it with. It's a big deal. So I actually am very sympathetic on this issue with the Germans. I know some people, Jonathan isn't in TikTok. I hear you, but let me put it this way. I'm not saying that we shouldn't ban all the imports, but I'm saying, what was it? As the Canadian said, it's not a simple question, to quote the Canadians. And I think that's true. It's not a simple question. I'm willing to accept that there's a gray area there. Interesting. Okay. And Doc is disagreeing. I live in Germany. We don't have that type of effect yet. I disagree. Okay. I mean, anyway, fair enough. I'm forgetting what we were talking about. Oh, Lithuania. So I was talking about Lithuania. So this is interesting. we'd been talking about how over the last, I forget whether it was a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, but Lithuania enforced the sanctions that were already in place, right? The European Union sanctions against, or whatever, all of our sanctions, not European Union, all of our sanctions against Russia. And part of what the sanctions cover is obviously sending boycotted or embargoed material to Russia. So a lot of technology, things like that can't be sent or sold to Russia. But it also includes sanctioned goods transiting a country that is part of the sanction protocol. In other words, European countries or America or Canada cannot allow boycotted goods to cross our country on the way to Russia. Okay? Well, what happened was Kaliningrad, which I've shown you guys before, and I will show you briefly, just so you have a you're all gonna learn Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad. Here we go. Kaliningrad, which is a region of Russia that is not connected to Russia. Well, I mean, it is Russia, so I guess it's connected to itself, but it's not connected to, the big chunk of Russia that normally you think of. It is, I will show you again. It is right north of Poland. It's the red dot. It's right north of Poland and right south of Lithuania. It's sandwiched by those two countries. Thank you, Ayabeth. It's sandwiched by those two countries. And then you see in the far corner, Moscow, all the way over here, right? So in order to get there, and I'll show you guys in a sec, in order to get there by land, what happens? Well, you pretty much have to cross Lithuania. Well, or Poland would be a more roundabout. The trains that go from Moscow and the rest of Russia to Kaliningrad cross Lithuania. I'll show you guys two really quick. So you got Moscow on the right there, Lithuania, the red dot is Kaliningrad, which is Russia. Poland's, and you see how it's bordered by Poland and Lithuania. So the trains have to cross Lithuania to get all the way over to Russia. Once those trains are crossing Lithuania, the Lithuanians said, the sanctions said, boycotted goods cannot transport our country or transit our country. So we're not going to allow it. Well, that cut off like 50% of the trade, not the trade, but the transit of goods from, I'll call it mainland Russia, for lack of a better term, to Kaliningrad, because 50% of the products in the trains were embargoed by the sanctions. So the Russians freaked out. They've been threatening, all the implicit threats that Russia does. And now last night, they finally issued a final ultimatum. If the situation will not return to normal in the coming days, mind you, the coming days, I like that too, because you're giving a threat that's a final threat, but you're not giving a timetable. And your timetable is kind of sometime in the future. I mean, a threat should be by Wednesday or whatever, right? So anyway, if the situation will not return to normal in the coming days, Russia will take harsh measures against Lithuania and the European Union. Well, let them try, as far as I'm concerned. Because, and again, Mahatskaya is mentioning the Suwalki Gap, which is a little strip of land that is basically the border between Lithuania and Poland, right? You got Poland down here, you got Lithuania up here. They're attached at the border. That border area, the concern is the Russians could invade and try to take that border area. So they've got a land bridge now through Belarus, through this border area to Kaliningrad, and just steal the land. But they'd be invading Lithuania, they'd be invading Poland. They would be at war with NATO. And as we talked about yesterday, there's a lot of troops already in that area, including NATO troops. Having said that, I mentioned this yesterday. I talked to a former NATO defense minister who, before the war, who told me there's some concern as to whether NATO actually could stop the Russians from invading and kick them out. But this was before we sort of knew how bad Russia really was at war making. Russia has vetoed a UN resolution about food and medicine in Syria. So in order to provide literally millions of Syrians, okay? My voice is doing pretty good today. Yeah, thank you. Let me have a little more sip of coffee. In order to provide literally millions of Syrians with food and medicine. There has been a humanitarian corridor set up in Syria because Syria's had the civil war that Russia's been involved with and everything else. A humanitarian corridor that was set up by the UN to force Syria to let us feed their own citizens because the Syrians don't want it. Well, Syria is a Russian vassal state. They're in cahoots with the Russians. The Russians have been complaining about this for a while because it should be up to Syria, this kind of BS, right? Well, for the first time last night, the Russians vetoed the renewal of this humanitarian corridor. So now the food and medicine can no longer get to the millions we are talking about, literally millions of Syrians who need it. The thinking as to why they're doing this, beyond just being evil, is they want to create another humanitarian crisis. This is also what they're doing with the food by starving North Africans and the Middle East by cutting off the Ukrainian food. They want to create a humanitarian crisis that forces people in the regions to leave and go where? To Europe. So in this case, what they're hoping is for Syrians, the easiest place for Syrians to go is Turkey. Just go north and go into Turkey. Well, how would Turkey like that? Probably not very much. The reason they're doing it to Turkey is what just happened. Turkey agreed to let Finland and Sweden into NATO. And they're trying to punish the Turks. Thank you, Crusher. And send them a message that you better watch it in terms of how far you go, right? In terms of supporting the NATO sanctions and all of that. Also, they're just trying to punish the Europeans overall by sending more refugees, knowing that it costs money to deal with the refugees, but it also causes some domestic strife because you get a lot. I mean, Europe's had like a crazy amount of refugees. I mean, you get hundreds of thousands, or a plus of refugees. You can have some domestic backlash at home. So they're hoping to create that kind of problem politically for Europe as well. But literally, they cut off food and medicine to millions of people on the border of starvation. Just unbelievable. Final point I was just going to mention, because I saw this and I thought it was interesting. Around 1,000 women have joined the Ukrainian army since February 24th. So February 24th is when the war started. Excuse me. According to Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar, since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the number of female volunteers in the military has increased substantially. She added that since women are not obligated to serve by law, all female soldiers are volunteers. Now, I knew women were in the Ukrainian military. I didn't realize, I mean, I guess I did know implicitly that they weren't drafted because we know men 18 to 60 are not allowed to leave Ukraine, but we know the women can. And that's apparently why. The women aren't drafted, but they can always volunteer, and they've had 1,000 volunteers. So kind of cool, And that's it. That's it for the news. I mean, we went a little late with the news only because we've been talking, which is good. I enjoy that anyway when we sort of get into discussions. Oops, drop my phone, adjusting the temperature again, my horrible system. So yeah, let's jump into questions and talk about whatever you guys want. Hang on. There we go. Do that again. Well, we already know. Sorry, Just Mel is saying, how does this affect women if they're captured by the Russians? Well, we already know. Well, I mean, they are members of the Ukrainian army. So they're covered with the Geneva Conventions, all of that. We already know there was a group of, thank you, Robert. There was a group of maybe 14, 15 female soldiers who were taken by the Russians at the beginning of the war. And the Russians shaved their heads, which is really unbelievable. Thank you, Arifa. I've not seen that one before. That one's very cool. That must be a new one. And thank you, Mel, for that. They shaved all of their heads, because, again, trying to humiliate them and trying to, I wouldn't even say emasculate. What's the feminine version of emasculate? They're trying to basically turn them into men, humiliate them, cut their hair, and then made them strip naked in front of, I guess, it said in front of male soldiers, but I think it's in front of Russian troops, and do things like squats, like squat down in front of them naked so that they're basically spreading their legs for the men. I mean, horrific what the Russians did to these women. You had asked, like, what happens if they get taken prisoner? That's what happens. It's horrible. I have not read about a human trafficking ring that was broken up by Ukraine authorities. No. Did not. Oh, you may not be on though. I was going to mention something. Somebody got me a wonderful Italian cookbook off of my Amazon wish list, and Amazon didn't put the piece of paper inside like the gift card. So I have no way of thanking the person. I was going to call Amazon today if I can. And I called last night and they had me on hold for half an hour and I gave up. So I don't know if you're on right now, whoever you are, but thank you. I'm going to guess you may not be. But thank you for that. Was it really you, Max? Was it really you? If it was, thank you. I'll show you. Sorry, not to get off topic, but this thing, I was laughing. Look at how big this thing is. It's insane. Actually, I'll do a promo for the book just in general. It's this wonderful, it's called La Cucina. It is an amazing, okay, everyone's saying it's me now. Stop that. I'm going to believe Mags that it's her. It is from like the Italian, gastronomical, the Accademia Italiana della Cucina, the Italian Academy of Cuisine, or whatever you want to call it. And they went around the country to every region and they basically talked to all the old ladies and got all the old recipes and, worked on them, distilled them so that they were able to, thank you, Rainbow. They were able to basically, codify, put in writing all of the traditional recipes from each region before some of them disappeared. It's really cool. Anyway, it's really cool. Let me adjust this again. But thank you, Mags, if that was you. But yeah, they didn't put the piece of paper in and I was freaking out last night going, you got to be kidding me. Like, how do I, because it's great. Amazon actually has a nice way. You like scan this thing and it brings up a thing where you can write a thank you note. And that way you don't get the person's, email if, privacy stuff. Yeah, Ryan's saying that, haven't they said like 6 times already, maybe they'll threaten Lithuania again in a few days? That's exactly what they're doing. The Russians, somebody had made a great comment on Twitter last night, and one of the military guys I follow, or military experts I follow, and he said, great powers don't threaten nuclear war. He said, the US and China get their way all the time internationally. When do they ever? They don't. Somebody mentioned Donald Trump, because Trump did do it basically with North Korea. And it was incredibly gauche and boorish of Trump to do it. And we all kind of freaked out when he did. It was just disgusting that he did it. Because we are a great power. We don't need to do that. And when you do it, it is, I will say it is always a sign of weakness when you do it. You do it because you're insecure and you're insecure about yourself and about your abilities. America doesn't do it. China doesn't do it. Britain and France don't do it, right? They've got nukes too. Even look at Israel. Israel doesn't mention its nukes. Israel, last time I checked, online, of course, Israel had at least 100 nuclear weapons, probably more now, but 100 nuclear bombs. Israel, when has Israel ever mentioned to its neighbors publicly, oh, we have nuclear weapons? Never. When you've got them, you don't need to say it unless you're incredibly insecure. But I thought it was a really interesting observation of that whole thing, of great powers don't need to threaten nuclear war. And it's why Russia isn't a great, it's not why, but it's evidence. Ashley's saying, I have a family meatball recipe from Naples passed down 150 years. Oh, wow. Would you consider sharing such a thing? It's funny. Some people, I guess I feel that way too sometimes. Like some people get upset about or get nervous about sharing. Like they don't like sharing family recipes and things because it's sort of like the secret family recipe. And, I would love to see it, Ashley. There's a part of me that feels that way, but I've always given in because like people will ask for when I put pictures up of the moussaka or something, people say, oh my God, put your mom's moussaka recipe up, because like, what's the big deal? It's not like I'm going to copyright the thing or something. You can't copyright a recipe anyway, but you know what I mean? It's just, anyway, it's kind of funny, But some people do. They get very uptight about their recipes. And to me, I'm like, as long as you don't make a cookbook out of my recipe, I'm fine, I do need to make my mom's recipes into a cookbook just to like sell them online or something. Raisins. That's funny. That's funny. The cookbook, sorry, somebody asked again, is La Cucina, the regional cooking of Italy. So there you go. La Cucina. All right. And I mean, insane. This, I'll just tell you really quick, because I laughed at how it's 900 pages. The funny part, but this is the thing. The funny part is the recipes are all very small. Each of those is a different recipe. That's 5 recipes. The recipes are actually quite small. That's how many recipes are in this crazy book. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. All right. Yeah, we'll see. I know cooking. I do need to do some cooking lives. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. So what was the missing and kidnapped children? Yeah. Wow. What else? Ian asked an interesting question. Do the viewers and yourself feel it's time for NATO to step in and sort these Russians out? The problem is that, the problem is that Russia does have nukes. In the end, we don't want to get into a war with Russia. If we're at war with Russia, there's always the danger of it escalating into something more. Even though I think we would beat them other than the nukes. Russia's having a hard time beating Ukraine. They couldn't handle another 30 countries, let alone the United States alone, let alone with 29 of our partners, right? So, but I can appreciate the concern about not wanting to engage with Russia directly. So I don't think that's going to happen. What bothers me is I wish we had done more sooner. Thank you, Inspired Woman. And there's still things like, remember the fighter jets we wouldn't give them? We still are playing games with tanks. Like some tanks they got, but remember some of the tanks, the Germans, among others, wouldn't, the Germans wouldn't give them and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Anyway, I just wish we had done more, but I can appreciate the not engaging with troops thing. That's a fair point. Funny. One of my sisters, Royshin, I'm never going to get your damn name. My Irish friend, I'm going to call you Irish friend now, says one of my sisters-in-law is from Italy and uses raisins and meatballs. Napoli, maybe? Ashley or whoever, Ashley was saying her family is Naples. Yeah. So check it out. That's interesting. Got raisins and meatballs. Now, okay, I will say, obviously, that can be an amazing flavor. My mom's, Ashley said, yeah, Naples. Not to get into cooking too, we can do cooking at the end, but my mom has a wonderful recipe for stuffing for the turkey. And I call it stuffing. I guess it's called dressing. I don't know what the difference is, but it contains raisins and apricots, dried apricots and raisins. And we end up putting some dried, prunes in there because prunes as well are delicious. Prunes I don't like, but cooked in a meal, my God, Moroccans, right? Lamb with prunes. Oh my God, amazing in Morocco. So it sounds weird putting raisins in there, but having said that, we've got fruit in our stuffing. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a meat stuffing. I should have said that. It's a meat stuffing that we make. And so it's all meat with that. Now, interesting. Oh, so my Greek friend is saying koukounati. I don't know koukounati. That's interesting. The Greeks have a dish too that's meat with raisins. I have to ask Mom about that one. That's interesting. Because yeah, my Greek recipes I've got, we don't put the fruit in ever. But it actually Roshin. No, it should be okay. I'm going to go with Roshin because you've got the accent on the first part. Oh no, you got 2 accents just to confuse me, don't you? Don't you there? Oh, super chat from Harvey. Harvey, where are you? Roshin. Of course, probably it's Roshin. Harvey, where'd you go? There's Harvey. Didn't even see it, Harvey. Sorry. Just came out in BBC News. Ukraine. Oh, here you go. Ukraine were able to uncover a sex trafficking ring targeting Ukrainian refugees, with most of the women being kidnapped and transported through Russia and Turkey to the Middle East and Southeast Asia. Oh my God. Oh, that's awful. Wow. That is crazy. Who the hell was doing that? But who was behind it? Was it like some Ukrainian mafia thing or Russian mafia, or what was the, I mean, who was, I'm curious, like, who were the bad guys? Huh. Wow. Oop. If somebody wants to weigh in and say, yeah, so who were the bad guys? Roshin. Okay. Stuffing is in the bird, dressing is on the side. Okay. So yeah, who are the bad guys? We're talking about the Ukrainians broke up some sex trafficking ring that was taking women out of Ukraine and forcing them through Russia or Turkey, and then they would be sold to the Middle East or Southeast Asia. Dear Lord. Absolutely horrific. My God. But yeah, I'm curious who's the excuse me, who are the bad guys, so to speak? Russian networks are criminal. That's what I'm wondering, though. But was it like a Russian mafia thing? Or, okay. Sorry, I know this is always like behind a little bit. I'm going to Google it. I know it must be Russia. Everyone's saying the same thing. I agree. But Ukraine. Oh, this is 2 days ago in The Guardian. Okay. Investigators in Ukraine say they foiled a criminal gang who that's funny, who forced women into sex work abroad after luring them with false advertisements for legitimate employment. Authorities in Kyiv arrested the suspected leader of the gang after months of surveillance. The 21-year-old, who has a son to support, had lost her job. Wait a minute. Wait. They were able to, the suspect's involvement. Oh no, they're talking about a woman who was lured. Oh my God. After assisting her, prosecutors were then able to arrest a 31-year-old male suspected of being the leader of the trafficking ring. Based in the Kyiv region, the gang allegedly recruited a number of vulnerable Ukrainian women after the Russian invasion, with the false prospect of a legal job, sent them to Turkey and forced them into sex work. Oh my God. Wow. So it sounds like this is like a corrupt Ukrainian who did this. Wow. Let me see here. The man allegedly kept records of the women in Turkey in a notebook under their real names or nicknames. He had listed their work days, a price for each service. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what it sounds like. Wow. Okay. God, that's awful. Man, that's awful. Oof. I'm glad they got the guy, but Jesus Christ, that's just horrible. Wow. Ukrainian too. I totally would have thought Russian mafia. Yeah. Wow. The Crown? I don't know. I'm not actually looking on, because I'm not looking on Twitch directly. I don't know what the Crown means. I'm using a different app, StreamYard, to read all of your comments at once. Well, I mean, that's a question too. It still could have had ties to Russian mafia. Who knows? You know, they weren't doing mail order. Oh, maybe you're doing something else. You're talking. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, bad people. That's true. I mean, bad people are everywhere. That we're not surprised with. Let me look here. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, yeah. Let me look at TikTok and look at the Q&A. That's my thoughts on some. Boop. My other TikTok people I follow. If Germany had nukes, okay, here. Oh, this is going to be a fun hypothetical. I can see already. If Germany had nukes in World War II, would we have let them take over the earth? If not, wouldn't we have stopped them? Why can't we go in against Russia? Genocide is real. I mean, well, first of all, there's a very good TV. I was going to say American, but it could be Canadian for all I know. A wonderful TV series with a horrible name called The Man in the High Tower. It's a stupid name for a show. The Man in the High Tower. And it's really creepy. I'll call it Red Dawn, but done incredibly well, like Oscar quality Red Dawn. It is basically, the scenario is Germany developed a nuclear weapon before America in World War II in The Man in the High Castle. Didn't I say High Castle? What did I say? I said High Tower. The Man in the High Castle, excuse me, High Castle. And Germany develops nuclear weapons before America, and they nuke Washington, D.C., and America capitulates. And Germany and Japan then take over the United States. Now, maybe they nuked the West too, I don't know, but they nuked Washington. Japan and Germany then take over the United States and divide it, I believe, the Rocky Mountains, which is sort of a natural divide anyway in the country, right? Because the mountains come up and the country is split in two, so that Germany has east of the Rockies and Japan has west of the Rockies. I mean, it is so well done. And each part, then, the eastern U.S. is literally Nazi culture, and the west part of the U.S. is Japanese culture. And you see, like, even the Americans kind of bow. They're very into drinking tea and stuff. It is such a creepy show. Exactly what SEC is saying. It's such a creepy show, but very well done. Very well done. And I don't even remember what we were talking. Something somebody said made me think of The Man in the High. Oh, your question. Yeah. So what would we have done if Germany had, I guess, so what I'm saying is part of your question is when would Germany get the nuke? Would Germany get the nukes before we got them? Right? Or a scenario like today where Germany and America develop nukes at the same time. Then what do you do? And both have equal capabilities of delivering them, because obviously it's kind of hard to deliver a nuke all the way across the ocean. Back when they were first created, you had to drop them out of planes, right? We didn't have the missiles. I don't know. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's the problem is you do have to take it into account, you know? I mean, I think it would have been just like the Soviet Union. We would have had realms of influence, and we would have told the Germans there's certain areas you don't touch that belong to America, or belong, so to speak, but are in our sphere that we protect. I mean, yeah, they almost did. A lot of German physicists were part of the Manhattan Project. Yeah. No, it's I don't know. Now, I do think, having said that, I still think we would have fought the war in Europe. We still would have fought the war in Europe. I still think we would do that. And you just kind of have to do it knowing that the other guy has nukes and you have nukes, and you hopefully don't use them against each other, because it's actually, it is like Russia. I mean, we had to prepare. Think about the Soviet Union and the West. We had to prepare for war in Europe for, certainly since post-World War II for 40 years. And we prepared for it. And NATO had troops, and the U.S. had troops as a tripwire in West Germany, so that Americans would be some of the first to die if the Russians invaded, so that America, and NATO would have to go into the war. I mean, so it doesn't mean we wouldn't have war with Russia, because the fact that the Soviet Union had nukes, we didn't stop preparing for war with them, right? Anyway, interesting. I don't know. That's very interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah. Well, the thing is, Remy, that's a very interesting question. I mean, Remy says, I'm sorry, but what the hell is the point of having nukes? That's an interesting question, because if you're, today at least, if you're a sane modern country, you don't use them, right? I mean, we use them in World War II, but today you're not supposed to use them. And that is correct too. The only protection is from them is a game of chicken. That's exactly it. Yeah. Thank you, Jesse, for that. the idea is that we don't use them until it's a last resort. Either the other side has nuked us first, or we're about to lose our capital or something or whatever, right? Where it's an existential. Russia even puts that in the nuclear doctrine, an existential threat to the country. Thank you, Kim, for those. See, my voice is going a little bit today again. But I will say this. Having said that, one thing, if you want to know what the point is of having nukes, look at everything Russia's gotten away with. Because Russia has nukes, we didn't get involved. If Russia didn't have nukes, there would have been a greater chance of us doing a no-fly zone and things like that. But the fact that they had nukes has made Macron, I know, it's getting a little, well, we're almost at a quarter after anyway, so, but it's getting a little bit bad again today. But it certainly has stopped, France and Germany have been less helpful than they could be. Biden has been helpful, obviously. Thank you, Nikki. Very helpful. But it's still, breathing isn't the problem. It's my throat, the voice. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, your question killed my voice. All right. Well, and that's the question too. Are they really usable? All right, guys. You know what? I think on this note, because my voice is going, let's stop. It's almost quarter after anyway. Maybe I'll hang for a couple minutes, but try not to talk too much. I mean, you guys can keep talking anyway. But I did read about acid reflux possibly causing voice problems. The thing is, I'm not noticing acid reflux. Although, the reason I'm doing that though is I have allergies and I've got milk in my coffee, and milk makes me do that in my throat. But clearly something is playing with my throat again. It drives me nuts though, because I don't feel any. It doesn't hurt at all. It's just, recap. All right, I'll try to do a recap. I'm going to do a low voice recap. Ukraine hit 3 ammunition depots overnight. Russian ammunition depots. Russian military bloggers are really upset and even taking on Putin publicly. The Ukrainians are threatening imminent action in Kherson, the Kherson Oblast, the Kherson region, which they're telling people to leave, and they're making it sound like like they're preparing some kind of invasion to push the Russians out of there. Mysterious train explosion across the border into Russia, where a lot of troops are transported. Mariupol in the south, Ukrainian town occupied by the Russians, 2 reported explosions. The Russians' operational pause. I read a New York Times story that had a lot of interesting pieces talking about how it's not clear. The Russians are bringing in troops with horrific, yeah, that's what's going on, Getter. I won't do that in the future. Thank you. Troops with horrific weapons. And basically they're giving them the worst kind of vehicles they could have. Ukraine is mining the border with Belarus. Canada said that it has not agreed yet to give that key part to the pipeline to Gazprom in Russia that the Germans want them to. Russia's threatening Lithuania again, but that's nothing new. Russia vetoed a UN resolution about giving food and medicine to millions in Syria, and around 1,000 women have joined the Ukrainian army since February 24th. All right, you know what? I'm going to even heat up some water. One sec. See if that helps. It's driving me nuts. One moment. water. There we go. Hot water, baby. Oh, boy. Yeah, it's no longer the Ukraine, although it was when we grew up, because that was the Russian way of calling it. But now it's just called Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are sticklers about it because it was a Russian appellation for them. So it's a big deal for them. I know I don't have a proper kettle. I don't really drink. I mean, I drink tea, but I don't drink tea. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind tea, but I'm a coffee drinker. So I microwave my mug. I do have hot running water, but there's a school of thought that hot water running through your pipes may be pulling off some of the stuff in the pipes, so it's not clear what you're drinking. I did not talk to my doc about the throat because it was getting better. I do have quite a garden on my deck. Yes. And actually you can't really tell, but it's flowering like wonderfully right now. I mean, I've got amazing flowers going on right now. Very happy about. It's just, yeah, it's quite lovely. Yeah, see, the voice is still playing games, but it's feeling much better with the hot water. No, because cold water, the concern is, I don't know if it's true. The concern is that the water coming out of your pipes is so hot that it's diluting some of the stuff in the pipes possibly. And, you're drinking it. Whereas cold water isn't sort of eating away at the pipes. I don't know. I'd read that. So, yeah, I'll email my allergy doc on Monday and ask him. My guess is he's going to tell me to do exactly what I'm doing, which is, I'm taking a decongestant. I'm doing all of that kind of stuff. I'm Claritin D. I'm doing the nasal lavage to put a nice word to the process. That kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's the thing. Webadeb is saying the mineral buildup in cold water doesn't go through the tank. Doesn't go through the tank? What do you mean the tank? Hot water spigot in your kitchen? Oh, that's interesting. Heats under the sink. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Allie. Appreciate that. Cognac. I know Yulia was telling me about cognac too. I'm like, all of you old world people telling me I need to drink liquor to help my throat. No, we'll see. My voice has been great all week. It's just today it finally gave out a little bit. It depends where you live. I've got my own boiler, so to speak, because I live in my own condo, so my own apartment that I own, so that you've got your own heating, you have your own cooling, you have your own water heater. I call a water heater now a boiler. That's funny. We called it a boiler when I was a kid. Water heater, stuff like that. Ginger brandy, funny. Yeah, there's Julia, exactly. Yeah, that's funny. I'm not much of a drinker, though, really. I mean, I'll drink socially, but it needs to be a margarita or something, Although I do have a wonderful rum that I use for cooking all the time. Mucinex I had, but I was using it over Christmas. I had something bother me, and it actually was making me a little sick, the Mucinex. So I stopped using it. I forgot what. It was giving me some kind of upset. What? Oh, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure what this message is about, but it's making me laugh. Oh, what the hell was that, Thomas? Hold on, I'm seeing what the hell Thomas Walsh is. What in God's name? What the hell was that? All of a sudden, Thomas Walsh is messaging, holy crap, I just fell in my pool while scooping it. While scooping what? Just got back inside and dressed, and now I'm at my computer. Tripped over my Crocs and fell into my pool. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Tripped over your own shoes and fell into the pool. That's like something out of It's like something out of a TV show or something. Like, actually, that would be like the kind of humor that I almost find too obvious, that I don't enjoy. You know, like, oh, come on, who's gonna trip over their own shoes and fall in the pool? Thomas will. That's very funny. I mean, Tyson, you're funny. Yeah, I've never used. My Irish roommate, of course, had a kettle. The thing is, I don't drink tea. I have good tea, actually. I bought some wonderful tea in Paris. Wonderful tea. What's it called? The South African one. That's wonderful. I was going to say Royshin. It's not Royshin. It's Rooibos. I'm thinking Roshin. I'm thinking your name now, or Roshin. What? Oh my God, I still can't. I'm gonna have to put your name on a damn sticky on my computer. But Rooibos, wonderful. Oh my God, I love that tea. I discovered it in France. I've never had it here in the States. Oh my God, so good, so good. But I wear same thing. Got mine on. My nephew got them for me as slippers a couple years ago because I always destroy slippers, and I work at home. I've always worked at home, so I'm always wearing slippers, and I destroy my slippers in 6 months. And he was like, Uncle John, let me get you these. So he got me them for Christmas. Hold on. You laugh, Katsi. You laugh. Ha ha ha. I'm a good Greek boy. My newfound Greek friend on TikTok was saying, you've got to go and try tea from the mountain, Greek tea from the mountains. And I showed her what I got with my mom once. And mountain tea. I was going to say it means tea from the mountains. It's already translated. Yeah, Tsai-Vunu, or Tsai-Vunu, I guess. Mountain tea. That's funny. I tried it. It was okay. It's okay. I'll have to try it again. I just don't drink a lot of tea. I don't drink a lot of tea. Tea is only good when made from kettle water. I remember them getting caked with stuff. Yeah. That I remember. We used to have a kettle. Oh, I love Rooibos. Rooibos was just wonderful. I wish we could find easily bags of Rooibos. I know it's, cheap, but I mean, whatever, but it makes it easy. But it's nice. I will make tea sometimes. I mean, I have a pretty little teapot that my sister got me, one of those pretty Asian ones that's kind of flat. And I have used it before, except you got to be careful because the one I've got, I think you got to dry it out totally, or it can rust or whatever. Fresh ginger sliced in hot water works great against sore throat and acid reflux for me. Interesting. I mean, I do have, do I have interesting souvenirs from Greece? You jest. Probably my most interesting is up above my counter. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've only got two sort of the. Well, actually, it's funny. The one I like the most, interestingly, is. I mean, I have and I've got I've got my mic here, but it's fine. Oops, put the mic. Oops, sorry. I know. I was thinking put the mic over here, but I've got a couple different things. I have a very old. Very old. It's from before 1900. We don't know. Oil lamp, and it's a whale oil lamp. You know what I mean? The lamp with the 4 little things coming out of it that we've had. Somebody was asking. I mean, forever. I mean, it goes back to my mom. It was in the house when my mom was growing up in Greece in the 1930s. So it's from way before then. From Googling online, I'm guessing it's 1860, 1880 maybe. But what I actually like the most is this, even though it's nothing special, so to speak. And it's the old grinder that my mom's grandma in Greece used to use. And she used it. She didn't use it for coffee. She used it for, you can see like it opens up the little drawer. She used it for grinding her herbs. But you can see the little like, the little thing inside. But I just love it because I think it's really pretty. It almost looks like a tourist thing. It's so cool. But I love this, that it was her grandmother's, So at least we know, being her grandmother's means it at least goes to the early 1900s. Before that, who knows? Who knows if her grandmother got it then or got it from her mother or whatever. But I just think it's very pretty too. Yeah. But no, the big oil lamp is sort of the oil lamp is a big deal in the family. Again, because it's old, we just don't know. And the other thing is, I've got a what do you call, sort of a thing. I can show you. It's for candles in church. It's the candle container that sits in front of an icon in church to throw light on it. Because in the old churches, of course, it's not like they had electricity. So if you think of like an Eastern Orthodox church, like Greek or Russian or whatever, the dark church with an icon and the candle in front of it, this thing would hold the candle and shed light. Oops. Hold on, I'm going to start tangling it again. I've got to be careful. Don't tangle it. There we go. Nope, still tangled. It's like a trick trying to untangle this. But anyway, you get the idea. But it's really cool. I mean, I love this thing. Oops, I'll show you close. It's got like little angels on it, and the little holes in the side so that it's not silver, and it hangs from this. But I've been wanting to put it up, and I haven't put it up. I've got to sort of put it. Well, I was going to say kandili, but I wasn't sure if that's what it was called. That's funny. It is kandili, yeah. But I love it. And again, it was in. Well, 1 second, I'll tell you. I'm going to have to somehow untangle this at some point. That may have done it. And that has a long story too, because it's from a church. Well, it's at least from 1900. Again, could be earlier, could just be 1900, but it's from a church that was my ancestor who fought in the revolution's church, because he was a priest, and the church is still dedicated to him, and there's a nice statue outside and everything else to him and all of this kind of stuff. My mom's family. So it's also like an heirloom of the family. Who knows? It probably doesn't go back to him because he's 1820s, but it at least goes back to 1900 that it was in his church, for the candles and stuff. So anyway, thank you, Rich Arm. But I love it. Exactly. It's family stuff, Well, it would be, you would put candles in it. You'd put a candle in it, or I don't know how maybe the candle nowadays would be one of those candles in a glass thing in it, and the light comes out and it's to shine light on an icon. But I've got to hang it up at some point. I've even been thinking like on that post, my pole, which I hate, that thing sticking out of the wall. But Lavi, oil. Oh, like an oil lamp? Okay. Is it the, I know what you're talking about. My yaya always had those. Yeah. They would put like water with a coat of oil on the top, and then a little piece of metal that was holding the wick that went down, and they'd light it and it stayed lit. I don't know how it would work, but anyway. Oops. Anyway. Oop. I'm kidding. Oh, my friend Mark. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go, guys. I was going to go anyway. I want to be careful with the voice. And my friend Mark is messaging me. He's my friend Bicycle Mark, who's like a podcaster and other things in Europe. He's helping me figure out how to put my microphone so it works with the iPad, so I actually can have better audio, because this is my super duper microphone. But somebody had been helping me, but we couldn't figure out how to get it to work. Yeah, I'll say hi to Mark. Hi, Mark. Oh, well, not right. He's calling in, but thank you, Rainbow. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off so I can deal with Mark and also protect. I was forgetting the hot water was helping my voice, and I was forgetting and keep talking, and I shouldn't be. All right, guys, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, okay? Same time as always. All right? All right. Goodbye, you all.